Good afternoon, Google Beach. One person. Hey. I'm going to try that again. Good afternoon, Google Beach. What applause as well. I've literally done nothing other than walk. I got applause. How are you? You all good? You have ice creams. We have smoothies. We have sunglasses. Look, this is a good day at work, right? Are you working? Is it work? No, you're not working. All right. It's kind of work. Well, listen, thanks for coming down and joining us. If you haven't already been down, then why not? Because you've been missing some fantastic content up here during our lightning talks this week. If you have missed them, and I appreciate it's a ridiculously busy week for most of you, then all of our lightning talks are conveniently on YouTube, of all places. How coincidental. All the content's on there, so make sure you head over to YouTube and look them up, because we've had some absolute crackers on here this week. Also, what we're doing is the guys are working hard to kind of collate the highlights throughout the day of any kind of key messaging and information, and that's being shared under the handle of Think with Google. So also look that up on all the usual outlets, and that will keep you informed. They kind of release it every evening, and that gives you kind of summary of what's been happening up here on the stage for that day. So please make sure you do that. If you haven't already, then obviously take a look around the demos. We've got some fantastic, I already see some people modeling some caps. Stand up, sir. Show everyone your cap. There, or sit if you wish. That's fine. You can, I really don't want you, it's 29 degrees according to the slide. It's very hot. So make sure you go and get a doodle cap or whatever you wish. We've got lots of fun stuff for you to look at this year. Smoothies, ice creams, everything's here. Why would you frankly need to go anywhere else? We're asking you also to share your insight. Today especially, we got some fantastic lightning talks to you today. Mainly about the moment where technology and creativity collide, okay? So we'd like to know your opinions on that. We have a very creative hashtag, which is #@GoogleBeach. See what we've done there? You know, the home of creativity. So share your pictures and your thoughts on that hashtag, please, and say nice things about us, and we'll say nice things about you, and it's a beautiful romance. So please do that. Right, it's my job to kind of make sure that you're kind of in tune and ready for our first lightning talk. So I'm going to make sure that your brains are engaged. Is that all right? Because all I'm seeing is very dark sunglasses. You could literally be asleep. I have no idea. Most of you are. All right, good. So let's try this. We're going to bring up a slide. First of all, just got to make sure that you're alert and ready for the first lightning talk. So this is just a little fun thing, a Stroop test if you've ever heard of it. The idea here is we have colours written in different words that are also colours. Your job is to say aloud and do it all aloud, otherwise I'll pick on one person and make you feel silly. So this, for example, would be green. Obviously, this would be, you would say red rather than blue. So you say the colour you see, not the word. Okay, this is just to get you you fired up, even though you clearly look like you are already. But let's do it. So green, let's hear you first. So green, red. Yeah. Yeah, kind of, right? Okay. Rosé is strong, isn't it? It's still in the system. All right. It will sweat out, though. You'll be fine. Right. Just so that's one part of your brain working. We've got to get the other bit working now. So we've got a couple of these fun things, and everyone's talking about these. These are like the buzz of Cannes. People are stopping me on the Quasette saying, "Oh, Nigel, you're going to do your mind games because they're our favourite thing." And I say, "Yeah." And they go, "Cool." So we're going to do one. I'm literally entertaining myself. So you have to. This is like either a word or a phrase, right? So this, for example, obviously blonde and there, but this would be fair, okay? Because blonde is fair and square. You get that? See what we've done there? Little mind puzzle for you, right? I'm going to do them if you join in or not. So let's just get through this together. All right, I've got two of them. That's it. Then we're going to crack on with the far more interesting stuff. So here we go. Let's have this one. See if you can work that one out. What's that? The first person to get it does receive a prize. Anyone? You do get a prize. Who said that? Tuna fish. Tuna fish. Tuna. Very clever. Congratulations. Well done. You win a doodle cap. Okay, you just queue up for about 20 minutes. Well, you can sort that out. Right, but let's have another one because they're going down an absolute bomb. Long over. Look, and see, you're speaking and you're so excited about playing. That's how good this is. So there we go. You're now engaged. You're ready for action as far as I'm concerned. If you love these, by the way, I'm doing them all day, so, stick around. Good. Okay, so our first lightning talk that you are here for is can machine learning make us better creatives? And to head up this session, please welcome to the stage Head of Innovation at Adam and Eve DDB, Karen Boswell.
Thank you. I'm going to just bring all the wonderful people up with me as well. So we've only got 20 minutes to essentially talk about the future of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and creativity, so we'll crack straight on. I am incredibly privileged to have these three wonderful minds with me here today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because it will be a hell of a lot more authentic. I have Oscar, Kathy, and Ross. In a couple of sentences, I'm saying this particularly to you, otherwise that'll be 19 minutes of the 20.
OK, try and keep it brief. My name is Oscar Sharp. I'm a film director, mainly. That would be my sort of standard bio. I work in Hollywood, writing things for film studios and that sort of thing. But this odd little side hustle emerged that then turned into like a hobby that turned into like most of my life a lot of the time. I was working with Ross Goodwin here, who is a creative technologist. He'll explain himself. And we made a movie a couple of years ago that was written by an artificial intelligence. It was the first of its kind in that regard. An artificial intelligence named Benjamin.
The movie is called Sunspring.
And the movie is called Sunspring. It's got Thomas Middleditch from Silicon Valley in it, the main guy from that show, which you might have seen, but you also might not have done. I'm getting a lot of blank looks. That's
Anyone
a little like,
seen
definitely not seen it.
Sunspring?
One
There's
person
a
has seen
There's a couple.
Sunspring.
There's one in the back as well.
Excellent.
That guy.
Good.
It's worth a watch, even
Right.
if just
It's
for
only
focus.
10 minutes. You
Yeah,
can
let's hijack the panel and just watch that. No? OK. Right.
Kathy.
My name's Kathy Pearl. I work at Google as head of conversation design outreach and wrote a book designing voice user interfaces. I've been working with voice user interfaces since the early days in the 90s on phone systems, and it's just been really exciting to see how they've evolved with things like Google Home, and you can do more and more when you talk to your computer. So I think a lot about the best way to design these, so you'll actually be able to have a good and not a frustrating conversation. So it's fun for me to watch Sunspring and see how the conversation sometimes falls off the rails a little bit.
And I'm Ross Goodwin. I'm an artist who uses technology and specifically machine learning and code as my medium. I am also the creative technologist for a small program at Google called Artists in Machine Intelligence, and Oscar's collaborator, of course.
Wonderful. So I'm going to dive straight in. I'm sure everyone in the audience is here because on some level you're kind of interested in machine learning and AI. If you look right back at how it started because philosophers wanted to symbolize human thinking. So essentially humans created AI. AI is now a part of pretty much our everyday life. We come across it all the time, so it's leading humans. Humans feed back into AI. AI has derived subsets of machine learning which help humans. It becomes a virtuous cycle. So my first question to the panel is, who do you really think is actually leading the creative?
Who's leading the creative? You mean when,
whether it's humans or machines?
In this world of AI and machine learning, if it's a virtuous circle of humans
That's interesting.
AI
Well,
and
so
AI teaching humans.
I mean, we've often said, and I think it applies here, that AI is human. Certainly Benjamin, for example, our AI was trained on thousands of screenplays, formed a statistical model of them, and then output stuff which statistically is like those screenplays, which means really it's sort of reprocessed humanity, as opposed to a thing that's going, I'm creating something. What it's doing is just getting humanity and kind of reflecting it in a quite weird funhouse mirror that then myself and a bunch of actors interpreted and made into a movie.
I would go even further into the technology is very human, and to think of technology as an other is sort of becoming increasingly, I think, seen as an outdated notion, because if you think about it, I mean, we have short guts because we use cooking fires. Tools are what separate us from our primate ancestors. We take medicine, we wear glasses, we do all these things to our bodies with technology, and to think of it as being fundamentally not human, I think it's always sort of been wrong in a way.
So do you think and please, I might direct this at Kathy. Do you think machine learning is freeing up the creative process for us?
I think it can definitely have that potential. I mean, similar to what Ross was saying, I think you start with something like pen and paper. We don't think of that as anything special now, but it's the tool that allows us to put these things out there. Machine learning can be just a more advanced tool that allows us to put more and new ideas into it and see what interesting stuff comes out, tweak it, try again. So at the moment, yeah, I definitely see it more as a tool than sort of taking over or becoming its own sentient being or anything like that.
Pretty much every technology we've constructed is a tool that's an extension of our will. Like we didn't want to punch rocks, so we invented hammers. I think that every time we do it, it's because there's a thing we'd like to do. And certainly when we built Benjamin, we wanted to do this thing where we were like, wow, if you could process like all these screenplays and find out what the patterns were that emerged on their own without you having to kind of use your own biases to interpret them, what would you find out? What would you find out about human writing? And we found out some stuff.
I thought one of the interesting patterns was that the characters often say to each other, "What do you mean?"
Yeah, and I don't know. And our theory on that is that in science fiction, which the machine learning model was trained on science fiction screenplays, you have a lot of instances of characters trying to understand their environments.
Yeah.
Or in an unknown environment that they're trying to get their head around. I don't know is also an answer that you can provide to any question, and it will make sense in English.
Yes.
So it's an obvious catch-all as a machine answer for anything.
What do you mean? Sorry, they also often say, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And actually, as a screenwriter in my other life, I notice it's not even only science fiction, is that a lot of the times as a screenwriter, you're trying to find ways to cause characters to do exposition because you just need to explain stuff to the audience. So you're finding a lot of excuses for that, and then Benjamin finds the shortcuts.
But here it never gets explained.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, no.
And so what are we learning from this process at the moment? What do you think machine learning is teaching us as creatives?
I mean, we found out quite a few things. One of the fun parts has been, if you get Benjamin output, you can do statistics on that and learn some stuff. So Benjamin, every day on Facebook, publishes a film synopsis, writes a title and then a little paragraph for a movie pitch. There's some pretty weird ones in there.
It's a good coffee break if you get 5 minutes.
It's a
really
fun little read.
Odd,
but if you get like hundreds of thousands of those, which Benjamin can write in 30 seconds, and you do like a concordance on them, you learn some stuff because it's trained on like all of the film synopses that we could find on the internet, right? And we found out, for example, that men are mentioned 4 times more often than women. Fathers 4 times more often than mothers. Sons 4 times more often than daughters, although further and further down in the statistical breakdown. The most common phrase in film synopses from the internet, as interpreted by Benjamin, is a young man in a small town.
That's really interesting.
So if you want to write a Hollywood movie, start with a young man in a small town. Make it slightly longer, and it's a young man in a small town is stuck, or trying to, or forced to.
And so do you think that there will come a point where we won't need to write stories anymore as humans? Is machine learning going to get there for us?
No. Sorry. I don't think so. No, because it's about finding new interfaces and new methodologies for writing more than it is about like replacing the act of writing. I mean, to the extent that writing is a fundamentally human activity, humans will always be doing it. The ways in which we write might change. I mean, just like the invention of the camera took something, the creation of a photorealistic image that once took years of training and innate talent as a painter to produce and put that in the hands of a much broader audience. We think machine learning, has the capacity to do things like create cameras for writing. You might be writing with an instrument that produces an entire block of text at once instead of writing word by word or letter by letter.
One of the things I find the most interesting about watching Sunspring is that because the actors do this great job, and because we're biased to think that when people are talking that they're making sense, so you're watching these actors and they're putting all this great emotion and facial expressions, and your brain is like, this makes sense, but then you're listening to the words and you're like, it doesn't make sense. And it's very, this contrast where it feels like it really makes sense, but it doesn't actually, and I find that fascinating.
Sounds like quite a lot of conversations I've had here at the Camline.
And so the biggest thing at the moment, I think, is voice. And like everybody's talking about this sort of next evolution of how we are interfacing with artificial intelligence, assistants. Voice is a really, really personal thing. I'm going to direct this to you because you're our expert in voice on the panel. But do you think we're crossing a boundary when we bring such a personal element into this at all?
Crossing a boundary that we shouldn't cross, or just are we crossing a boundary at all?
Have we removed an aspect of the personal side of things, or stepped into perhaps something where we're converging a little bit, where the technology and the human bit ends?
I think, the great thing about voice is that it's just so natural. And so right now, to learn a new technology, it used to be you had to read the user manual, you had to fiddle with your gadget or whatever, and now you can just talk to it. And what could be easier than that? And I think it's just a means to an end, by taking advantage of the fact that we've all been speaking since we were very young, we know how to do it. If our computers can learn our language rather than us learning theirs, it just becomes a great tool. I mean, there may be a day long in the future where they become whatever, self-aware in their own things, but we're a long way out from that. So in the meantime, just think it's a great tool.
Okay. And so I'm going to ask each of you to answer this in as close to 30 seconds as you can.
Oh, God.
What's your favorite AI-led piece of content, film, or campaign?
Sunspring.
Well, actually, no. You can't say that. I was hoping you wouldn't say that.
This week it's Zone Out, because Benjamin has made 2 more films. Last year it was It's No Game. David Hasselhoff trained on David Hasselhoff's
so you're
past
putting yourself
performances.
forward for this.
And this year, Zone Out, Benjamin wrote, directed, scored, and performed the movie, which is incredibly weird this time.
I watched that. It was very weird.
Yeah, it's sitting on YouTube now. But yeah, I mean, why would I not pick the thing that our own creation built? It's not my work, it's Benjamin's. I'm
of course.
myself up.
This is a tricky question. I can't think of that many, but one I'll pick, which is actually a fake AI land. Had anyone seen the one about Olive Garden commercials?
Yeah.
So somebody said they trained their bot to watch 1,000 hours of Olive Garden commercials and then made a new script. It was not true. He
Sort of proves that this concept of bot-generated text has really gone mainstream, and people have a sense for what the tone is and what the style is that bots have, when they're sort of left to their own devices. The example that I was going to bring up is Botnik Studios. They're doing stuff similar to the Olive Garden thing, but actually, cheating slightly less, I guess. What they're using, I wouldn't even call AI. They're using basically an autocomplete tool, selectively picking the next word over and over again to generate interesting, remixes of existing content. And they were pretty well known for that fake Harry Potter book they published like a few months ago, and they have projects coming out all the time. Good friends of mine, and
it is fantastic stuff.
And
I do think this familiarity of the Olive Garden piece and so on, it speaks to what they and we and a lot of other practitioners in this field have been trying to do. We want people to become more familiar with this feeling of like, oh, a kind of a robot wrote this, and it's got this particular oddness to it. And when you speak to the subject of like natural voices and whether when they get too natural that they fool you, whether something problematic is happening, I think that our ways of communicating, let's say vocally, have always been a means of sort of connecting ourselves as a species. They've always been a way of understanding each other. And of course, that's what a filmmaker is doing when they make a conventional film. They want to form a connection. So the notion that you're forming a connection with something that then you find out that there's no someone there is what's so deeply uncanny. And we're trying to say, well, there is something uncanny to that, but a person still made the thing that made the output.
Yep.
And in a way, you're connecting with those artists, and you're connecting with them in a different way.
And that's really interesting. I'm going to pick up on that theme of connecting, because I think as creatives, there are 2 uniquely human things that go into a creative output. There's the slightly batshit crazy process that we go through of actually coming up with the idea, following it through, and then there's the emotion, like the human emotion that goes into it, whether we're trying to make someone laugh or cry. Machine learning's kind of got to a point where it can almost begin to trick us that it's feeling. Do you think it will ever really get there, or is it just going to become exponentially better at mimicry?
I think that there's a big problem with the way that we frame these questions in general, which is that the vocabulary we use is very anthropocentric, meaning it is vocabulary that is applied exclusively or has been applied exclusively to human activities and human thought. And the fact of the matter is that to the extent that machines can emulate us or emulate human activities, or activities previously thought to be exclusive to humans, they're doing it quite differently. There's this famous Dijkstra quote that it basically goes, the question of whether a machine can think is about as relevant as the question of whether a submarine can swim. And I think that's very telling, and you can basically replace the word submarine and swim with feel and any other word that is really exclusive for humans, because I think what we really need is like a new language and new vocabulary to talk about these issues and describe what bots are doing, because otherwise we risk anthropomorphizing, we risk confusing what's happening and misunderstanding our own technology and not really actually letting it reach its true potential.
And I think whether they become emotional and have their own emotions or not is an interesting question that we won't know for a while. But to me, also really important is our emotional response to them. So I'm thinking about things like the robot dog from Boston Dynamics in that video where they're kicking the dog. It's upsetting, even though this is just a robot dog. Who cares? And when you see someone yelling at their voice assistant, they're not hurting the feelings of the voice assistant, but it tells you a lot about that person, about how they treat others. So I think our reaction is very important to think about as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've been anthropomorphizing as a way of understanding ourselves for as long as we've been a species, in a way. We create puppets, we use rocks, and we go, once upon a time, Mr. Rock was angry with Mrs. Rock, and we sort of bang them together. There are very base instincts in us to understand ourselves through this process. And so, of course, we do it with our technologies, especially those that lend themselves to anthropomorphization very readily. And I don't know that is always automatically a problem. One of the things that we're doing in our work is we're going, hey, it called itself Benjamin, which it did, and then people are drawn to it, like, oh, is it a person then? Can I learn? And they're leaning into it. It's like, what can I learn about humanity this way is the sort of unconscious drive of that. And then we're putting up our hands going, guys, it's basically a hammer. Right? It's basically something that we built that's very complicated that does this tool action. So please remember when you're looking at it that you're understanding yourself in a complex mirror as opposed to empathizing with a someone.
But we both think it's important to sort of create the illusion before we bring it down, in order to properly communicate that.
Yes.
And how do you think our relationship is going to change with Google Assistant and Siri in the next couple of years?
I think it's going to get a lot more personal, and you're going to have it from when you were small to when you are big. So it's going to learn a whole bunch about you as you interact with it every day, things you like when you're in a bad mood. And it might come to the point where it's so easy to talk to your virtual assistant. I hope that people don't not want to talk to people, because the virtual assistant's like, oh, it's so easy they know me so well, they'll never tell me I'm wrong or whatever like that.
Humans.
But I think it's going to become very personal. It's going to know a lot about you, which, if we do a good job, can be a really nice thing.
Do you think we'll ever have a moment where those assistants become versions of ourselves?
There's another philosophy there. There's, for example, that bot replica where you train it it asks you questions about yourself, and it starts to mirror you, which is another fascinating way to look at it. We might have different versions of ourselves as assistants that we send out in the world to do various tasks for us. That could be interesting.
The one thing that excites me about, because I do find that exciting, but it also concerns me in certain ways, because when you have a system that's collecting so much personal data, it's like, what is preventing that data from being used for something else, right? So one of the things that I find really encouraging is, that this idea of on-device machine learning is getting advanced more and more every year. And, I think, with that paradigm in mind, one thing we could see in the future is a machine learning system that exists entirely on your phone and isn't going into the cloud. So that data that it's collecting is actually yours. And you have it locally so that there's no concern about somebody using it for something you're not expecting.
And you can share it when you need to, like, send this one bit to my doctor. Send this one bit.
Control over it.
For our most recent film, this one, Zone Out, with Thomas Middleditch did it again, and we created a version of him digitally, and then we gave it to him on a flash drive as a sort of symbolic act to be like, you should have this. In fact, everyone should. Your cookies that are following you around the internet.
I kept a copy of it. But
yeah, well, don't tell him that. The notion that the cookies that follow you around the internet can create pretty high fidelity reproductions of you, that your speaker that's listening to you all day in your house, that your phone that can hear you when it's ready for Hey Siri or OK Google is in principle able, the tools exist to make a pretty good copy of your behaviors. So, I mean, that raises for me the question of, like, okay, we've got self-driving cars that drive like we drive. Will we have self-driving selves? Will we have versions of ourselves, as you say, that go out and be us for us? Because you're just like, oh my God, I really don't want to make this phone call. Can you go do it? And can you be charming? Because I'm tired. And it's like this other version of you is like very charming and goes and gets you a job interview and like succeeds. And then maybe actually I'll let it do everything. I'm just going to take my basic income, universal basic income, and it can go and have a job. I don't know. Would we like that? I think quite a lot of people are like, yes, when can I get it?
Reminds me of a Bruce Willis film.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll make that movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it.
And so what do you think needs to evolve or change for Benjamin to be able to write a full classic? Is it software? Is it hardware? Is it structural design?
So, sorry, I couldn't quite hear the question. It was what needs to change in order for Benjamin to do what?
To write a full classic.
Okay, so one of the biggest problems, in terms of like natural language generation, which is the technical term for the field that deals with generating natural language text, is long-term coherence, because we simply don't understand well enough. We don't understand language well enough to build machines yet that can generate a whole page of text that is totally coherent and human level and makes sense. We're probably at like the paragraph level right now, where we can make a paragraph that makes sense with a machine, totally autonomously. But in terms of a page, in terms of a whole screenplay, it's just not there yet. I think things that will have to happen for that to become the case. I really think actually it's not so much a software problem anymore as a hardware problem, partially. The hardware keeps getting better and better, allowing for larger and larger models, but also just a design problem. I mean, if you can think of a way, and this is something that we explore a lot, is ways to sort of zoom out a level, to abstract out at one layer and think about, okay, if we can't get the machine to write a whole page of text that's coherent, how can we, generate a structure that the machine can fill in different ways. That's one approach.
It's one of the places our whole conversation began was the various people who've written theories of film structure, sort of Joseph Campbell and Sid Field and the like, who have sort of said, oh, you've got 3 acts and there's this climax here and this sort of thing. And one of the things we often discuss is like, can Benjamin's output be asked to conform to that, and what would happen if it did? Sometimes I like to call our project the Average Movie Project, because I'd like to think that eventually you would create the most average movie possible. It would be like the perfect conforming to all of the so-called rules, and it would be profoundly dull as a consequence.
But I think that, as you've discovered,
yes,
that's not really what happens when you feed a script into this machine.
Not
right?
yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But who knows whether it ever will? Yeah.
So I have one final. I'm getting a minute warning in the background, so I've got one final question that I'm going to ask. How long before we have an AI jury member at Cannes?
Oh.
An AI what?
And I don't mean the algorithm that sits behind the scores, but how long
AI
do you think
jury
it'll be
member,
until
not
we have
long.
a machine
Right.
learning
AI jury member?
Yeah.
jury member at
I
Cannes?
mean, it already exists. I mean,
Yes.
I don't agree with it, but
in the room.
In the room? Why would it need to be in the room?
Well,
So as an
actually
actual
on a
jury member,
jury.
Oh,
not
on
the
a
algorithm
jury. I
that
see what you
currently
mean. Okay.
sits behind it. We know that that's
Yeah.
been around for a while.
Well, I mean,
nobody
I'm gonna hold you
knows.
to this.
well, but I'll go so far as saying this. I think that one day it is not that unlikely, though it is not inevitable, that instead of voting in elections, we will upload models of our preferences, personalities, and behaviors that will be made into a Gestalt leader, and that will seem like the only thing that makes sense, because at the moment, democracy is like a profoundly inefficient way of achieving what it's supposed to do. You do this one blunt tool of a vote to get one person who you think will kind of agree with you to kind of do things that you would quite like them to do. And then they don't. Because of course they don't, because it doesn't make any sense. You can't boil down preferences very efficiently like that, but it's the best thing we've got. But hey, if we're boiling down human behaviors, guess what? Like, we've got a technology that's proven to be increasingly good at that.
Before we
So it
close,
wouldn't be that
Oscar, that
unlikely.
sounds terrifying, actually.
Yes, of course it does. Of
Yeah.
course it does. But it isn't that unlikely that eventually it will seem obvious.
Sure.
One of our gold pieces on the digital craft jury was Ricky Brazil. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely spend a couple of minutes checking it out. I think we're out of time, so massive, massive applause for my wonderful, wonderful panel, Ross, Kathy, and Oscar. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, Google Beach. How are you? Very sensible man. Look, SPF 20. You look after yourself. Welcome. Hello. How are you? Good afternoon. Come join us. If you're loitering with intent, don't be shy. I'll keep talking until you sit down. Come on, we got an agenda. Thank you very much. Welcome. Welcome to Google Beach. Are you having a good day? I'm kind of talking to you as well. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming down. If you have been kind of too busy to catch all of our lightning talks this week, and I appreciate that may be the case because there's a lot going on, then all of our lightning talks are actually online at YouTube, conveniently enough. So make sure you hook up on there and check those out. Also, every day, we've got a team who are kind of collating all the key sort of information and facts and sharing them on our handle, which is @ThinkWithGoogle. So make sure you join us on there and you can find out what's going on. We are also sharing with our highly creative hashtag this year, #GoogleBeach. It's good, isn't it? Cheers, bro. So please share your photographs and share your thoughts on there about us and the beach. Obviously, say nice things. We say nice things back to you, and it's a beautiful thing. If you haven't had a chance, then please make sure you look around at the demos as well. Lots going on. Grab an ice cream and a smoothie, and frankly, just chill out and learn lots. Are you are listening, aren't you? I'm just because the glass is very dark, and you could be asleep. I literally have no idea. Oh, you are awake. Perfect. Thanks for that. Okay, so before we get on with our next lightning talk, it's my job just to make sure that you're, you're awake and alert. I'm aware that it's very hot. Okay, it's actually only 29 degrees. It feels a bit hotter, but it's 29 degrees. So it's important that you're relaxed and you're focused. So I just need to make sure that you're alert and ready to take on some information, because this lightning talk is an absolute corker. So here we go. So just a few things to loosen you up. If you could all place your one arm in the air for me like this. Excellent. Please do it. Those not doing it will be picked on and ridiculed. Excellent. Come on, Minnie. So, good. So what's going to happen, I'm going to count to 3, and on 3, I want you to put your arm down quickly by your side, okay? Are you ready? 1, 2, oh, very good. All right, you can relax. That's good. We only got him. You got to wake up, sir. All right, that's so good. Right, so that's your arms alert. Take a look at the screen. We're going to just try your mind. Make sure your mind is alert, okay? So this is kind of a visual mind puzzle, all right? Now, this one is an example. I'll give you this one. The idea is either a word or a saying, and this is long overdue. Do you see what we've done there? Genius, isn't it? Good. Glad you're enjoying it. So this one, the next one, you've got to work out yourselves. See if you can do this. Get it? Any ideas? Hey, mate. Thanks. You've got to work these out. Any ideas? Come on, people. Can't get it? Brain dead. She's gone. Okay. It says a chimp, not badger. It says chimp. And the idea here is making a monkey out of him. See what we've done there? So, all right. If you could just calm down a bit with your excitement. These are the buzz of Cannes, I tell you. Forget all the other stuff. Everyone's talking about this. Okay, one more. Let's do one more because I know you're loving them. Come on, this is easy, surely. He says, knowing the answers. Overwhelming what, Brian? Overwhelming odds. Give him a round of applause. You win a prize as well. You win a doodle cap. You just got to queue up for about 20 minutes. Crack on. All right. So there we go. Now you're all in a heightened state of excitement. Are you ready for our lightning talk? Indeed you are. So how can cloud drive better creative? This has kind of been our theme all day, and we're going to crack on with it right now. So please welcome to the stage Google Cloud CMO, Alison Wagenfeld.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I have no puzzles for you, but hopefully some information. And we're going to spend just a couple of minutes up front talking about, well, obviously talking about how cloud can drive better creative. But I want to highlight a couple of key areas that we're going to focus on. What we're seeing now is, well, actually, first of all, how many of you are familiar with cloud technology? Just so I have okay, about half of you. So just a sense. So cloud within Google, we have a Google Cloud Platform, and that's where many of our customers and our own company, we put all of our data. And we use that data to drive analytics, to do machine learning, artificial intelligence, and increasingly, we're being able to use cloud for marketing purposes. And so that's what we're going to spend time talking about today. And talk about it in a couple of areas. It's about how do you make your marketing and your advertising more relevant, make it more contextual. We'll go in at the end, share a little bit about some real-time data that we're using in advertising, and talk about making things relevant and contextual in live sports. And we also have an opportunity to learn more about how to make better decisions, how to optimize marketing better using cloud technology. And to go into more detail on that, I'd like to invite Menno to the stage, here from IPG. We'll first have a quick chat so you can learn a little bit more about him, and then he's going to go into a couple of demos and some work that they've been doing at IPG and for themselves and with their clients. So first of all, Menno, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your role and how did you get into this hybrid technology, advertising, marketing role?
Well, I think I'm from school. I'm a psychologist, so I'm not really a mathematician or a beta guy, so more alpha guy probably. Although I did some startups, Sponsorware, FirstRiot.com, some small startups, and I built some websites in the beginning of my career. So I know a bit about HTML and some coding, and to be honest, Python and those languages are kind of familiar, so it's not that difficult probably to grasp. And then I worked at advertising agencies and at Schiphol Airport. I did the narrowcasting screens, so the digital transformation from, you know, those old screens on airports with the flippers. And we all, threw them away. And we replaced it for digital screens, of course, which is also very much not just thinking about advertising, but about information, relevant information, and, you know, not just the commercial stuff. Yeah. And I think many advertisers should do that as well. So that's a nice link to today, I think. Yeah. So what will be the role for technology in creating more meaningful connections than just sending advertising messages all the time?
So what is your role within IPG? How do you bring that to life for you and for your clients?
Yeah, so first of all, we have a team with analysts, econometricians, and developers together to try to predict future effectiveness of advertising. Which is what we all want to know, right? So you have a budget and you have a target, and then you want to know, will I make it, yes or no, and what do I have to do in order to get to that result? So that's the main task I have now, and I try to democratize all the technology and all the nerdy stuff and what only some people understand to a broader audience within our agency, and also to our clients. So what we do in day-to-day life is having hackathons with our clients together to create those meaningful connections and to create their own channels, because depending on just the advertising channels is not enough today anymore. So you have to create your own apps and stuff and functionality. Yeah.
So I thought it would be great if you could share some of the work that you're doing and talk about why you did it and what role it's been playing. So I'll turn it over to you and go from here.
So for at home, you can do what I'm going to do yourself, using these two URLs. So the top one is AdVision. It's an award-winning project we did to calculate and predict CTR based on creative elements from ads. So let's go to the demo to have a look at this site. So let's pretend you have a BMW client. You created a BMW ad, so it's in the category automotive. And the size of the ad is this. And then at the bottom, you already see it calculating. Maybe I have to take a step back how we got this data. So we used the Vision API from Google to get all the creative elements from thousands of ads. So you get back, you know, is there a car in it? What's the dominant color? Is there a logo in it? Yes or no? What's the logo position? Is there a lot of text in? Is there face? What's the how does the face look like? You know, is it smiling or is it worried or whatever? Is there a Eiffel Tower in there or another object? So there's a lot of data there, and we matched it with all the CTR data that we have from those same ads, and that gives us a nice data set to model and predict the effectiveness. And we built this small tool just to play around. It's a beta version 1 to give you an idea and to play around with, okay, how can I get this CTR up? So do I have to create a vertical one? Nothing happens. Or horizontal? Is blue as a dominant color performing better than black? No, it doesn't. So if I add a face to the ad, does it work? Or some food? No. Probably a car, right? And maybe some cultural thing? No, like an Eiffel Tower. And what's the best call to action to use? Is that just click here, for instance, or download the BMW app or the car configurator app, or win a BMW i3 or i8? Yes, that's the best probably, right? And do we have to show a logo? And what's the best position of this logo? So here it's just an example of how you can use the Vision API to do something really difficult that normally takes hundreds of students probably to tag all the creative elements in 10,000 ads. That's been done by the machine, right? So you can do all kinds of new analysis and smart stuff. Now we have the Video Intelligence API as well, so it's not just working with stills. So this is an example of a dashboard we built. It's the second URL that you've seen. And here you see the BMW, the next 100 years. And here you see already the amount of shots. The Video Intelligence API gives that right away. And then at the right, in green, you see all the labels being associated in the video. So let's have a look here. So it recognized not just automotive, obviously, but also and BMW compact car, but also the M3, right? So it has the model right, so it's extremely powerful. But sometimes it makes funny mistakes as well. I think you've seen that here in this shot. It says animal. And probably, okay, it makes sense. Could be camels, right? But it's cars, and it's a rare image, probably, for the machine. So it needs some more learning still. So in our next project, we're going to do the same like with ad vision, but then we call it video vision. So we correlate this with view-through rates and completion rates. So we know, okay, what type of labels, what type of subjects, what type of content do you need to show, in what order, etc., to keep people interested and completing the video, watching the full video. So these are just a few examples, Alison.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to talk about how long did it take you to build these?
At Vision, we built, I think, in 4 months, like that.
Okay, and so tell me a little bit about the team. So if some people here want to start cataloging and analyzing all of your videos or all your photos, like who did it take to make this all come to life?
Yeah, so of course you need all the videos coming from DBM, including the view-through rates. To be honest, it's sad that it's just quartile data, so you don't have the view time, the view-through rates per second. Yeah, that's a bummer. But anyway, so you have less data points to model. Right. But still, I mean, it's good enough. But I think you need at least 1,000 videos to run a solid model and to be able to predict view-through rates.
Yeah, so I mean, so if you're at an agency and working with a client and they have a whole catalog of videos or a whole bunch of photos, it's not that many, 1,000, sets of footage, and that's how you can catalog this all. So then, if you said, things that are performing best are videos that have sunshine in them, then rather than having some poor intern go spend their summer looking for all the videos with sunshine, you could actually run it through a model and you can find those. And so we've been seeing lots of our customers really start optimizing, and things like click-through rates is really just the beginning.
Yeah, and the next version will be probably an ad vision where you can upload, we were building that right now, so you can upload 4 visuals, for instance, and then it gives you the best performing on CTR and engagement rate, for instance, and then recommendations of what you should do, like putting the logo left or adding another color or an animal or whatever in it. Then you could move and baby steps,
Yeah.
but still moving forward.
Yeah, and then going forward, what we're seeing is some of our customers not just taking this advertising data, but then combining it with other sets of data, because right now, for most marketers, data is in all different silos, and being able to bring those all together with Salesforce data, for example, if you're working with a B2B company. And so that's really one of the ways that we're seeing marketers really start using cloud in different ways to make better decisions.
Yeah, we're adding eye tracking data to this because the way eyes move is very predictable. So if you have done 20 or 15,000 eye tracking studies, you can make a solid model, 95% accuracy on how eyes move. So those models are already in the market, so you can do this, for instance, and then also layer over the eye movements, so and match that with, okay, what's in the screen, what's in there, and where are the eyeballs at that moment.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you very much. And so we're going to then transition a little bit and talk about how we're using cloud to create real-time creative. And so I'm going to click back over to the slides here. Because what we're seeing now, and I think increasingly at Con, is we'll see the creation of advertising that feels part of the entertainment. And so we've just started doing this a little bit at Google. We ran a campaign this spring, for those of you from America who watch basketball, the NCAA tournament, the March Madness tournament. It's a huge deal, lots of media impressions. And we put together a partnership with the NCAA where we loaded 80 years worth of data together into Google Cloud Platform. And then our technologists analyzed that data to create predictive models. And then we used those predictive models to actually create live TV spots at halftime based on what happened at the first half of the game to then show right at the beginning of the second half. And the ads were delightful because they were real time, they were predictive, and people were kind of watching them to see if we were accurate. So I'm going to show you a little bit about this campaign. We'll run a video.
This, right?
Yeah, so last night we had awarded a silver lion and category in digital craft. And then tonight we're shortlisted for award around using real-time data. And so I can talk a little bit about how this all came to be. So we worked with an agency in San Francisco, 11, and teamed up with them to work with our technologists, with some people internally with Google and with 11 to kind of take this creative vision and then create these ads real time in 20 minutes in kind of San Antonio where the stadium was going, where the game was being played. So everybody, I think there might have been a little bit of footage in there, everybody effectively in a media truck building an ad together. And we were saying that in the future we might not even need to be there in premise. It was kind of fun to be live where the games were. But what I would expect going forward is now you can analyze, using cloud, you can create these machine learning models to analyze data so quickly that in all kinds of different types of live events, live sports, live entertainment, Oscars, whatever it would be, where we're seeing lots of great TV ads, to be able to create really highly contextual ads. And so we use some data models, some regression analysis. So this is something that we really partnered with an agency on. So for those of you working in agencies, it can partner with your clients and bringing in some technical talent to help build this all together. And we can talk through the case study if anybody's interested in learning about how to do this kind of real-time data modeling in advertising. So that was a particularly fun campaign. And so I'm going to wrap now. If you have any questions for us, we'll both be here. We can take any live questions now, or we'll just kind of hang out. Does anybody have any questions now for other of us while we're here? Yes?
So on the software you were showing, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, just if you have three agencies doing three car brands at the same time, and then software kind of like helping you position the logo. So having the software position the logo, helping with the color, helping with sort of like close up, animal, Eiffel Tower, whatever. Can you end up with having like three similar looking videos for three different brands using your software?
In theory, that's possible.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But
You understand?
it's trained on.
But it's very unlikely.
It's very unlikely for multiple reasons because it's trained on data specific to a customer. We're not. So we have big data sets that are trained on what is a car, but then you would then apply your own client's data against those models. So it will be differentiated because the kind of the core model will then get that has trains on massive amounts of information could then gets connected to your own if you're an advertiser, to your own specifics.
All right. So your own data kind of like differentiate the way that the output
Correct.
is made.
Yeah, and when the data is only shared, so we've gotten these massive training sets of data, which were shared with us, public data sets, but your own customer data will not get shared with other customer data unless you wanted it to, and you wanted to contribute to the kind of the data sets overall.
Thank you.
So, time for one more question, and then we'll stay here and be able to.
Thank you. You are able to, how can I say, identify fake profiles. They are kind of robots that are sharing content, but they are not real persons. How you work with that?
So explain the question again. I missed the first part.
For example, you collect all the data, and sometimes we don't have a real data. It's just fake profiles, you know? When people are sharing, but not people. It's a kind of robot.
Oh. So part of our role is to create models that can detect what's fake and what's not fake. I mean, so the similar kind of technology that we use to filter out, if you use Gmail, you probably get very little spam. We use technology to filter out what's real and what's spam and what's a phishing email. That similar kind of technology is what we're now creating for the advertising industry and the marketing industry in similar ways to filter out what good versus bad. And so, in fact, it probably does a much better job because you can train it over time than a human would be able to know what's fake and what's real.
Yeah, but it's a good question because CTR, that's why CTR is not my favorite KPI. But so you have to, but we have viewability and all kinds of other metrics, of course, to optimize on, which are probably better proxies for interest or what you like to achieve with advertising.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you, Manuel, for being part of this.
Thank you.
How do you know that your big idea matters? Join us over on the main stage for our next lightning talk, and that starts in 5 minutes. Good afternoon, Google Beach. That was very polite. Let's try and make it a little bit more rock and roll. Good afternoon, Google Beach. Slightly patronizing. How are you? Are you good? Look, you're chilled out. That's one hell of a day at the office, isn't it? You're just chilling out. Can we get you anything? You need anything? You want? Okay. All good. Well, listen, welcome to our lightning talk. And in fact, welcome to Google Beach. If you haven't already, then I strongly suggest you head over to our demos. We've got plenty of those going on. Some of you already got your fine hats there. Very good. Make sure you go and see the doodle caps. Of course, we have our wonderful bars with ice creams and smoothies. And there's a room that they serve alcohol later, but not now. Okay. It's sunny still. No sun and alcohol. Please also let me make you aware of our hashtag, which is very creatively been put together as hashtag Google Beach. Genius idea, isn't it? Who came up with that? Very clever. The idea is very simple. What we like to do is we like to encourage you to share photographs and say nice things on that hashtag. And then, you know, you love us, we love you, and it's a beautiful moment, isn't it? Yes, is the answer to that. Indeed. If you have been busy, we're very aware that it's a very busy week for most of you. If you've been busy this week and have missed some of our lightning talks, we've had some absolute crackers up here. They've all been amazing. All the content is being streamed online to YouTube, funny enough. So head on over to YouTube. You can see, you can watch back the lightning talks if you saw them or missed them. Make sure you do that. We are also every day collating kind of like the hot tips and sort of key messages that have been coming through as well. And we're sharing those under the name, of @ThinkWithGoogle. So that's the handle for that. So make sure you go and check that out, and you can get all the latest information on what's been going on this very stage for that day. So lots of their stuff going on. We do have a fantastic lightning talk coming up for you now, which hence why you are here. But prior to that, it's my job to make sure that you're match ready. You're ready for what is about to happen. All right. So we're going to do this in two ways. First of all, it's important that you're relaxed, and most of you are vertical, so so that's already proving a point. But let's just try this. I'd like you to all place your arms out like so. Those not doing it will be picked on and ridiculed. Beautiful. Come on, sir, join in. I'm really here. This is not VR, AR. This is me. All right. I know it's hard to believe. All right. So wiggle your fingers for no reason whatsoever. It's just a bit of like afternoon yoga, right? Palms out. This is important. One palm over the other, locked together. Good. Okay. Now your head is upside down. It's back to front. It's a little confusing. You might need to put your drink down. Okay, good. All right. Wiggle your left little finger, please. Left little finger. Okay. And your right index finger. That's that one. Good lad. And your right middle finger. Good man. Okay, good. Now put your thumbs together. Okay, this is the tricky bit, but watch me first. The thumbs that are pointing towards the floor, twist them to the sky and then to your chest. Good. All right, so now we've done that. We're kind of ready. And the other thing we've got to do, that's you're physically ready. We now got to get your mind ready. So what we've been doing, and I know a lot of you are actually here for these. I do these little mind games, okay? They're the hit of Cannes. I mean, it's trending. It's frightening how successful they are. People are stopping me on the Quasette saying, "Oh, Nigel, you're going to do your mind games." I'm like, "Oh, maybe that, please." So we're going to do one, right? This is how they work. So this is an example. This is just to get your mind active and working for what we're about to see. This is a little puzzle here. It's a saying or a catchphrase or a word, basically. This is an example, the one that you've got to work out. But I'll tell you what it is. This is just between me and you. You get that? So it's very clever. And I don't know if you're stunned or bored, but I'm going to carry on. Okay, so that's just between me and you. This is one that you guys have got to work out. See if you can get this. There are prizes to let you know. If anyone can get it, there is a prize. Anyone? You're not allowed to play. Oh, maybe you are. What is it? Sorry? No, okay, fine. That was awkward. No? Okay, this is a gun, right? And this is a junior is what? Son of a gun. All right. That's good, isn't it? These are brilliant, aren't they? We've just got another 25 of these, and then we're going to get Dan on. Sit down, buddy. Make yourself comfy. We'll keep the beach open. We can run on. Okay, come on, this is good. This is easy. You can get this. Remember, there is a prize at stake if you get it. A genuine prize at stake. Okay, the word dice. I feel like an English light entertainment TV game show. It's horrendous. Dice, how many are there? 2. What's another term for 2? Pardon? Twice. It's good, but it's not right. Any other ideas? 2 paradise. There we go. Well done. You win a doodle cap. Just queue up for 20 minutes and claim your prize. There we go. There we go. You're ready now, aren't you? See, it's my job to get you into some heightened state of excitement, and I've clearly done that. So let's move on. Right. Okay. Now we are very aware that you guys are creative and you think big and bold. But the key question is when do you call time on the moonshot? When do you say enough is enough, essentially? And we are genuinely pleased to have on this main stage, and get this title out, a gentleman who is in charge of Google's own Audacious Ideas unit, listen to this, the Advanced Technologies and Projects Group. That sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Or ATAP, if you want to be much shorter. He's going to give us his top tips. We adore him. Please welcome the legend that is Dan Kaufman.
All right, man, paradise. I like it. Hi. All right. Well, thanks for bearing with me on a hot day. One thing I thought about, just to start, to give you a little bit of context about what we do and who we are, so you can put it in context. We're a product group, not a research group. And so the context, the thoughts I have go in that. And our mission is really, really simple. And I observe that this is true about all technology companies. I know it's true about Google. My guess is it's true about wherever you work, which is there's this fundamental tension when you talk about innovation. Right? So on the one hand, we all know you got to innovate. There's no company in the world you walk up to and go, should we innovate? They're like, no, that's just crap. So we all know you need to innovate, and everybody talks about innovation, but not that much goes on. And why doesn't it go on? It doesn't go on because there's a countervailing threat. And the countervailing balance that balances out this is simply this. What if I'm wrong? What if I innovate on the wrong thing? What if I screw up my product? What if it costs too much money? What if I do it? And fear 2 always beats fear 1. And the reason fear 2 always beats fear 1 is because fear 2 is quantifiable and it will happen this year. If I blow this year's launch by putting something innovative and nobody wants it, I'm fired. I don't have to worry about year 2, right? And yet, if you think about it, the insidious danger is actually fear 1, because if you don't succeed on the innovation front, then each year that you think you can make it up, you fall further and further behind. So our job is actually to mitigate that risk. That's the entire focus of my group. We do it. I am a firm believer that you don't do it by PowerPoints and slides. I'm sure you guys are dying for more PowerPoint and slides on a sunny French day. I'm not a huge believer in prototypes. I think they're helpful to do a thing. I think you actually have to ship a product. Now, you can do it at low scale, and that's what we do. So we build something all the way up, because it's not just about retiring the engineering risk or the mechanical risk. It's the business case. It's the legal case. It's the use cases. It's what the licensing is. It's evidently GDPR, which I now know more about than I ever want to know. I did something horrible in some life, and now I have to go to GDPR meetings. I don't know exactly what it was. But so if you realize that this thing is important, you realize that the idea that you pick, the one you want to go after, is one of the most important decisions you'll make. And we get, and I'm sure you do too, we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ideas, and the question is, how do you filter through? How do you pick the one that makes the most sense? And I'm going to show you this because, and it's kind of fun to give this talk. I only gave it because Zoe asked. I've never given it outside. We did this thing, and you'll be alarmed because the questions I'm going to ask are incredibly simple. There's just 5 of them. So we asked these 5 questions. I'm going to run through them in detail. They're deceptively simple. I can ask them in about 30 seconds. It takes most of my PhDs who are running in my projects on an average of 3 to 6 months, sometimes 9 months to answer these. And I'm going to just my plan today is I'm going to walk through these questions, give you a couple examples of them, and then I'll show you exactly how it applied to our products and products we shipped. Because I never like when people just talk and you're like, okay, but what did it actually resolve on? So let's start with the first one. Seems really easy. What's the problem? But it is amazing how often we get that wrong. So a lot of times people will come up and they will tell me about a cool technology. Graphene is really cool. Carbon nanotubes, wow. Those are not problems. Those are cool technologies that are fun to play with, but those are not problems. The other kind of problems you get are hyper-technical problems that only somebody buried in your industry would understand. You know when you're trying to map IPv6 to IPv4 and then you've got a problem with a linked list and then you know, like everybody's already fallen asleep. The problems I'm looking for is something you should describe in one sentence. It should be obvious, it should be undeniable, it should be indisputable, and it's like obviously a problem. I don't know, hunger is bad, dying of hunger is worse. Anybody want to take the other side? Right? Okay. So that's the point of what's the problem. It should be an immediate and obvious problem. If you want a simple one in my head, I always think about bad Jerry Seinfeld routines, right? You know, don't you hate it when, if you can do that, you have a good problem. So that's step one, come up with a problem. The second part is what's the state of the art? And people miss this all the time too. You are not the only person, and if this hurts people's feelings, I am sorry. You are not the only person to think about this problem. If you are the only person to recognize this problem, go back to number one, you have the wrong problem. There's a small chance you're Einstein, but you're probably not. So what is this problem that everybody knows, and what is the state of the art? And here's the key on state of the art. It's not state of the art today. You need to project out over the next 5 years. Because the people that you're trying to beat, they're not stupid. They're already ahead of you. They've already built the product. So if you're not jumping ahead, it doesn't work. So I get a lot of pitches where they go, see this competitor X's product, they messed up, I can make it better. I'm like, they know that too. They're going to make it better too. They read the same reviews you do. What I need to understand is how we're going to jump ahead, how we're going to get a generation or two ahead. So that's the second question, not what's state of the art, but what is it in 5 years. The third slide is the most fun one. It's the arrogant slide. It is the thank God for me slide. It is your chance to beat your chest. And what you say basically is, these people, meaning all the state-of-the-art people, have the problem wrong. They don't understand. They're looking at the solution the wrong way, and it's never going to close. Thank God for me. I know the right answer. And what's really lucky for me is I don't ever have to be that guy. I just have to hire those guys. So it's pretty easy. And they do come in the office all the time and tell me, thank God for them. And I'll give you some real specific examples in a minute, but I just want to walk through the framework. Fourth one is, so, okay, you have a great problem. You understand the state of the art. You're the freaking genius. That's awesome. So why hasn't somebody else done this before? Is there can you show me some existence proof? Something that exists somewhere, whether that's an academic article, or maybe it's been used in another industry, or it's been done at small scale, but something that gives me hope, right? And then the fifth one is the one that everybody loves the most, budget and schedule. But actually, it's important. We as human beings do better with big old scoreboards. And you need a big old scoreboard to tell you what you're doing. So my plan is I want to know within 2 years today, you tell me if I give you this money and this headcount, in 2 years, put a stake in the ground and I want a bold claim. I will reduce world hunger by X%. Now, I know it's scary, and I know you're probably wrong, and I know the schedule probably is all messed up. But if we don't commit, these things bleed on forever and ever, and you need to keep yourself honest, and you won't remember. And so one of the tricks we have in my shop is you put your original schedule, we print it up on the wall, and that's what it is. And I know that it's going to be wrong, but that's okay. That schedule's there. That never comes down. When you want to change things, we have a new schedule, that's fine. It gets posted right below. And then the next one below, and the next one below. And the reason you do that is because otherwise you get a boil the frog problem. You know, oh, I'm only off by 10 days. Like, why are you being so aggressive? Come on, man, 10 days is not much of a slip. That's true. But if you have like 40 of those, quick math in your head, you're off by over a year. And so you want to watch that the whole time so that you can ask yourself and the team questions like, wait, I thought this was going to take 3 months. This thing is taking 9 months. Why do I believe that the next step that I said will take 3 months is not that? And maybe we have to rejigger. So I'm going to give you 2 quick examples of how it works, and then I'll show you actual ones. So since I did hunger, let's take hunger as the one. So hunger, good problem, right? Easy, right? Okay. What's state of the art? State of the art is we're trying to grow more food per acre, genetic crops, better fertilizer, better water, more seeds, better resistance, that kind of a thing. But, and this is a well-known fact now, but imagine for this example that you didn't know it, that actually the truth is there's enough food to feed the world by quite a bit. The problem is the distribution problem. But if the world didn't know that, that would have been your 3 aha. You'd say, see, everyone thinks it's about doing food. That's not going to cut it. It's about distribution. Your existence proof would have been, hey, here's what I saw it in other goods, and I've seen where there's a supply-demand problem, and look, it worked over there, and there's no real reason I can imagine that it wouldn't, if it works for this, it wouldn't work for food. And then your little 2-year schedule might be, hey, I picked 3 towns in Africa and a food distribution place, and I'm going to go build a little railroad between them, and we'll see. And if it works, then it's easy to hit the button and fast forward and go and then accelerate, and we've mitigated that risk, and we can go innovate, right? Here's one where it doesn't work, and I would love to tell you this is a made-up example, but alas, it is not. Although I am fair to say he or she no longer works for Google, so that was good. They came by and they said, I have a great problem. The problem is it's very difficult to ship goods, mass amounts of stuff, from point A to point B. And I was like, yes, go on. And then they said, well, the problem is, and state of the art is, it's all about energy density. That's just fancy engineering talk for basically, look, I can ship big, heavy things slowly through the water, or I can ship light things on an airplane, but eventually it's the same sort of cost, pound per amount of energy, and that's what it is. And what people are trying to do is make better materials, lighter aircraft, better batteries, but it's a very incremental growth. And I was like, this sounds great. And then the person comes up and he goes, so what's your solution? What's your aha? He goes, teleportation. We can just beam stuff from here to there. And that's when you take that little half step back, right? You're like, uh-huh. And okay, what's that existence proof? And it turns out they watch a lot of Star Trek. Yeah, so that was the end of that one. But hopefully it gives you an idea of the process. So I'm going to show you a real one. This is something we did. One of my project leads, Ivan Puparev, who's off the chart brilliant, was obsessed with wearables. And he hates wearing those watches. And he's Russian. I can't do justice to it. But it was like, Dan, I hate these big plastic square on wrist. Right? And it was like, yeah, I got it, but that's not a program. That's not a problem. Like, what is it that I want? Why are these things not taking off? We all want that capability, but we're not really enamored with it. And so we had to go back to first principles, and we came up with this chart. So this is based on work by Fitz in 1954. I don't know if anybody knows Fitz. If you don't, I would actually commend you to read the article. It was done in 54. It's actually a very, very brilliant mathematician who applied stuff to design. And what he said is quite simple. He was trying to map the amount of energy it takes from your brain through to your hand in order to do an action. And you can actually see it in all sorts of products today. And the obvious conclusion of it is that things are larger and closer to you are easier to target than things that are smaller and further away. Every time you get in an automobile, you see Fitz's principle. That's why you have a large square brake pedal and a skinny little gas pedal, although evidently they've reversed it on the streets here in Cannes. But for most people, that's the way that is supposed to work. And so what this red line here is the calculation of how much energy and effort it takes. So as things get smaller, what got cut off here on this axis is size. So this is size, and this is the amount of energy it takes. And this is Fitz's line right here. This is the limit of human capacity. This is the most that a human being can do. Yvonne went back, we redid the experiment, and it's actually a little bit lower. But here's where it got interesting. We then mapped your tablet, your cell phone, and your watch onto this continuum, and what you see is something very interesting. The watch is right here at the human limit of what you can actually control. And if you think about it, you're seeing it already in the products. You see it all the time. Because either you have to get a small device that only does a couple of things, but it does this very well, but it doesn't really do everything you want it to do, or you wear this big old stupid clunky thing that does lots of things, except you can't ever hit the icons. Because your hand is just fundamentally bigger than the glass, and it's just not a great experience. So if you have that insight, it immediately tells you two things. If I'm going to get into wearables, something has to change, right? I have to go on the x-axis or the y-axis. So either I have to make the surface area very, very large, or I have to disassociate from the surface, right? And both of these turn into products. So the first one, we call it Jacquard. So our first thought was, okay, we need a really large interface, but nobody wants to wear that, like, Star Wars thing of, like the entire, your arms and LED, right? And you're actually seeing it today. If you've been watching watches, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They're bigger and bigger and bigger because of this chart, right? So if you want to crack this market, it's not about rose gold and Hermes band. It's about fundamental math and fundamental science, right? So what we realized was, well, wait a minute. Why do you call this thing, this watch thing, why do you call it a wearable? Anybody know why you call it a wearable? There's absolutely no reason. It's just tech people making up words for crap, right? Your dad did not buy a brand new Rolex and come home and go, baby, check out the wearable. Like, never happened. We just made this up. We know what wearables are. This is a wearable. You know why it's a wearable? Because I wear it, okay? Shirts, jeans, all of that stuff. And it got us to thinking that maybe that's what we could do. If I want a large surface area, what if I could embed it inside the clothing itself? And that became this project we called Jacquard, and we partnered with Levi's to do it. And what's interesting about it, and I can show you the tech here a little bit, so I can just touch the thing, and then you can see it can react. So I can make any surface you have into a virtual touch screen. And you may think, you know, other than it's kind of techy and cool, I'm just going to assume the overwhelming silence is acceptance that you're stunned into coolness. But what's interesting to me about technology, I think technology becomes its most powerful when it's invisible. I think people want to live their lives. They want to be here, and they want to be in the moment. And they just want to be connected when they want to be connected. So we did this with Levi's because they said, we have people on bikes, and we don't want them, when a call comes in, we don't want them fumbling for their phone and looking at it and crashing. And what if you could just ride your bike and just simply touch your sleeve, change your song, listen to the YouTube tune you're listening to, dismiss a call if it's coming from me, you know, you can just stop the call. You can do whatever it is that you want. And it's taken off, and it's amazing how many brands have gotten interested. We were talking to a snowboarding company who make jackets, and they told me this, that every year at the bottom of ski slopes, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of cell phones. Because people stop snowboarding, they reach into their pocket, they have gloves on, they go to their phone, and it falls through. Which makes me think if this speech goes horribly wrong, I have a backup business. I think someone should go and collect those at the end of the year, and then just sell them back to you. But the thought was, again, you could be there, you could be listening to your headphones, and you can just touch it, and you can move on. So that's one idea. This jacket actually went on sale. You can go to Levi's store, you can buy one, because this is perfect jean jacket weather. I would highly recommend one. The second thing we looked at was going the other way, which is, well, the awkward thing about this watch is that touching it is weird, because my hand is bigger than the surface area. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, and this is sort of a jump, but hopefully you'll go with me. I think Google has made its money and its brilliance because it makes its software ridiculously smart. Like, seriously, it's jaw-droppingly smart. You type something into that search bar and it's wrong. Google doesn't care. It goes, I know what you meant. What you meant was a restaurant, and by the way, here are the reviews, and would you like me to make a reservation? Here are the directions. And you're just like, yes, that's great. But our hardware is fundamentally dumb. How many times have you ever picked up your cell phone because you want to do it and it's on the lock screen? Whoever has wanted this? Or me, because my eyes aren't that great, I hold it up to look closer and the lock screen comes on. I'm like, or you can make the text bigger. Like, so I define intelligence as when something starts to anticipate your needs, right? So when something anticipates your needs, it seems really, really smart. So we thought about this for a long time, and we realized that we can make this thing we call Soli. So this is a 60 gigahertz pico radar on a chip. A lot of fancy words. Here's the easy way to think about it. Remember Minority Report? When Tom Cruise went psh, 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 and all the screens? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that was like the best Tom Cruise impression you have ever seen. But that's what it looked like, at least to me. We reduced all that science fiction into science fact. And you can now control a device simply by radar. So as we approach the watch, it is seeing, it says, I see you coming, I see that you want to interact with me. As you get closer, I can give you the relevant data, I can show you whatever you want. So that's just sort of two examples of how it worked. Yeah? All right, we like it? So what I want to do is I wanted to keep this super short because I have no idea what audiences want. If I did, I'd probably, be far more successful in life. So what I really want are questions. I want to talk about you. I want to talk about your things that you're worried about, things that you're interested in, and I will do my best to answer. Yeah. They're going to give you a mic.
Thanks.
Now you have power.
I'm wondering, do you regard games as products? Because what problem do games solve?
Yeah, I absolutely think games are products. So it's just funny, I don't know if you know, but I ran games for Microsoft and DreamWorks. I built Medal of Honor, and then I actually had a game company here in France, and we took it public on the Nouveau Marché, the only French words I know, but it's useful. So you're definitely asking me, yeah, I think games are 100% products, but I think games are far more than products. I think games are both a product and a tool. So I think they're a product because you can obviously go back and buy a bunch of games and do stuff, but I think of them as a tool because I think when you're trying to teach people new technologies, games are better at teaching new technology than anything else we've ever used. And I think we actually underutilize them. I just think about this for a moment. When you have a massively multiplayer game and you have 10,000 people, bunch of kids from all over the world, different worlds, different languages, here's what the task is. Imagine this task. The task is get together, get organized, learn some foreign spell, and talk in a language you don't know. Get 100 of you to go complete a task. And they seem to be able to do it incredibly easily in games. And it seems to me it's the exact same thing. When I get into a car or I get anything else, and I don't know how it works, that's crazy. So I'm a big believer of bringing game designers, and I have 2 actually in my shop, specifically to make on-ramping of technology both easier and more rewarding. There you go.
If it's like a real simple game, and I ship products, games, and products that solve problems, but I shipped also a really simple 8-bit game. You have to touch like this, you know, you don't learn anything from it. It's just stupid. And looking at your first point, what problem does it solve?
Okay,
I'll give you wondering.
One. Yeah, no, I'll give you.
I'll know what problem it solves.
I'll give you one. So remember, not everything you do in life has to have purpose. Otherwise, no one would watch, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. But but I will tell you where it does. So for instance, I was actually at Microsoft, and when Windows came out and the mouse came out, that was extremely difficult for people to understand what it was and how it worked. And in fact, you can see early video of people taking mice and putting it directly on the screen and moving it this way, right? And you all laugh, but it was like a new thing, and it didn't make sense, and you wanted to move that stupid arrow. And that actually is the reason, as I understand it, I'm quite sure it's true, the reason behind Solitaire and Minesweeper. Right? Why did Microsoft come out with games? They did Solitaire and Minesweeper because it was the easiest, fastest way to teach you how to click, how to drag, and how to do these things. So things that may look simple, it was solving a real problem. It was just invisible to you. There you go. I have 2 minutes, which means like one good question or everyone can just get ice cream. Oh, there is a good question. All right. You're very bold. You've already assumed your question is good, which I like. I can't promise my answer is good.
I don't know if it's good. I hope it is. It was more in relation to the second project, the one with Levi's.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer for kind of haptic sensors.
Awesome.
And I was wondering if, other than like the touch aspect, is Google considering some sort of feedback that doesn't require you to look at your phone? Like how are you going to be able to get around that?
And I will give you the $50 afterwards for the perfect question. There is a haptic sensor in the Jacquard jacket.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever want to come, we can demo it. Yeah, we have a small haptic motor so that you can just do things by vibration. So when you're riding your bike, you can either do it with a light that has an LED, or you can just do a buzz. It can also give you a buzz for incoming calls. We just partnered up with one of the car driving services so that you don't have to keep looking out where is my fill in the blank. You can guess it's like one of 2. And you can see where it is. So I'm actually a huge believer, and I think haptics are really underrepresented right now. And I think it's just the beginning of where we can go.
And just another thing,
yeah.
Are you considering biofeedback? And so also like not only just touch, but what other senses is Google considering?
Yeah, well, I'll share one that I find really interesting. So recently we've had a lot of interest in healthcare and things like this, and fitness. So here's a very simple way to use haptics and biofeedback in a simple way. So let's assume that I need to be running, and I'm not a runner, so if you're runners and I'm making up these numbers, like, have at me. But let's say you're running about 7 miles an hour, and let's say in order for you to be in better shape and where you want to go, you need to get to 7.4 miles an hour. I could do it the old way, which is like super annoying, which is beep, beep, beep. You're not running fast enough. Like, I have enough people in my life criticizing me. I don't need machines to add on, right? Or I could have this, and imagine I could do one of 2 things. One is I could give you a very subtle beat through the haptic device on it, and as humans, we will syncopate with that and we'll start to do it. I could also play it through your music. You're listening to your cool YouTube music, and I just speed up the beat a little bit. You will, all by yourself, start to do that. Here's the crazy experiment, and I've heard this. I don't know it's true, but I am absolutely going to do it to find out. I was talking to some professional runners at a major sports brand, and they told me that if you're running at whatever it is, 7 miles an hour, and you get tired, our nature is to then slow down, because like I'm going too fast, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. But it turns out that they believe that every body has a particular resonance, and there's a particular speed in which you're more efficient, and that sometimes running a little bit faster, you might do better. So again, it would be really interesting with this biofeedback to say, hey, I'm actually going to speed you up to 7.2. You do your run longer, faster, get in better shape, and you don't do anything. So with that, I can answer questions afterwards, but this very nice lady will kill me. So, thank you. No problem.